Yeah, so yesterday we paused at when he was saying that until we have comprehended these three things in our intellect, until we have had both of a comprehension of justice, of order, and of truth, until then we can't find in ourselves the dedication or commitment to take up the responsibility for universal well-being. So it is only for universal well-being that uh, we will all come together, and it is for universal well-being that the need for awakening arises, because awakening itself is this comprehension of justice, of order, and of truth. So unless we want to move towards universal well-being, we won't feel the need for comprehending justice, or for comprehending order, or for comprehending truth. Because otherwise, we can carry on with our lives and, kind of enjoy the little bits of successes and little highs and little lows, or little bit higher highs and lower lows. We can keep enjoying them or suffering them. But until we recognize that, there's something called universal well-being that sounds appealing, and this is something I want to work towards, until that point comes, we won't feel the need to understand justice, order, and truth. That's what he was saying when we paused yesterday.
अनुभव किया हूँ, मेरे किसी आयु तक हमको सर्वस्व का कोई जिम्मेवारी मैंने बोध नहीं हुई थी. और
then he was saying, even for me, till a certain age, I also didn't feel this responsibility towards universal well-being. I did not comprehend this responsibility either.
उस आयु तक हम कोई जिम्मेवारी, बोध होने की पहले हम कोई जिम्मेवारी को स्वीकार करने की बातें नहीं थी. हम
And until that age, until I had that comprehension, there was no question of accepting that responsibility naturally.
उसको दे नहीं किया तो आप कहाँ से करेंगे इसका.
So if I also didn't take on that responsibility until comprehension, then how will you possibly do it?
मतलब ये हुआ तो सर्वस्व की बोध होने के लिए ये न्याय बोध होना बहुत जरूरी है, धर्म बोध होना आवश्यक है, सत्य बोध होना नितांत आवश्यक है.
So what this means is that for us to be able to comprehend universal well-being, it is extremely important for us to comprehend justice. It is very necessary that we comprehend order, and it is absolutely essential that we comprehend truth.
तो ये तीनों मुद्दे पर बोध होने की बात इसी प्रकार से होता है. अस्तित्व को समझने पर सह अस्तित्व रूप में अस्तित्व होना, नित्य वर्तमान होना हमको बोध होता है, जिसका हम अध्ययन कराते ही हैं.
And the thing about understanding all of these, or comprehending all of these, is to comprehend that existence is in the form of coexistence, that it is eternally in the eternal present in the form of coexistence. And this is something that we understand and that we can help others understand.
होना, नित्य वर्तमान होना हमको बोध होता है, जिसका हम अध्ययन कराते ही हैं.
So this is something that we can comprehend, and I naturally also help others study and comprehend this.
जो करना चाहते हैं, जो हम जीवन विद्या शिविर लगाते हैं जगह जगह में, इसमें आकर परीक्षण कर सकते हैं.
And those who wish to, they can come and examine this study in the various Jeevan Vidya workshops that we conduct from place to place.
जरूरत के अनुसार. तो अब इसी आधार
as per the requirements.
पर ये न्याय, सत्य, धर्म बोध होने के उपरांत सर्वशुभ की जिम्मेवारी आती है.
So on this basis, on the basis of comprehending justice, order, and truth, then this responsibility towards universal well-being emerges.
तब व्यवस्था में जीना बन जाती है. व्यवस्था में जीना बनता है तो वर्तमान में विश्वास होता है.
And then naturally we begin to live in orderliness. And when we begin to live in orderliness, we naturally feel this confidence in the present.
जब तक व्यवस्था में आदमी जीता नहीं, वर्तमान में कभी विश्वास नहीं होगी.
Until human beings live in orderliness, until they live in order, till that point, they can never have any confidence in the present.
इसका एक ज्वलंत उदाहरण पुनः अपन गणित भाषा की ओर दौड़ते हैं तो गणितीय विधि से विखंडन कार्य को, विखंडन विधि को पता लगा है.
So a burning example of this, if we again move towards language, then we can see using this mathematical examination that when we engage in Vikhandan Karya would be the activity of breaking things apart. So what's the word? Deconstructive analysis that is conducted.
विखंडन विधि को इसलिए पता लगाया, ज्यादा से ज्यादा शक्तिशाली परमाणु बम बनाने के लिए किया. परमाणु बम बनाने के लिए विखंडन विधि से गणित की भाषा को प्रयोग किया और वो आटम बम बनाने में सफल हो गए.
So this deconstructive analysis has been used, or this basically what when he says Vikhandan Vidhi or deconstructive analysis, what he's meaning is this tendency of science to try to understand a whole by breaking it down into its parts. So it's called atomistic approach, in which you try to understand a integrated, interconnected whole by breaking it down further and further and further into its the parts that constitute the whole. And he's saying that this deconstructive analysis, this atomistic approach, is what has led to the development of the strongest of the most powerful of atomic bombs. And it has been, and such bombs have been justified with the mathematical language, with using this atomistic or deconstructive approach.
भाषा को प्रयोग किया और वो आटम बम बनाने में सफल हो गए.
So they used this mathematical language and succeeded in developing the atomic bomb.
आटम बम बनाने में जब घटित करने में सफल हुए, उसका प्रयोजन कोई भी और कोई बात में आता नहीं है सिवाय नाश की.
Now, when they succeeded in developing the atomic bomb, the purpose of doing so can be seen in no other way than for destruction. You can have no other purpose behind developing an atomic bomb than for destruction.
और वो नाश करना तो दूर रहा, जितना नाश किया ही, जैसा हिरोशिमा में हुआ, और उसके बावजूद वो नाश करने के लिए जितना एक प्रकार से एक विधि से, न्यूनतम विधि से परीक्षण किया जाता है, उसी से ये वातावरण की क्षति हुई है. उससे
So this destruction is another thing. I mean, whatever destruction it had to cause, it did cause, like in Hiroshima. But in this process of its development and experimentation and trials, all the activities that were performed for the purpose of developing the bomb and all the trials that were conducted, that is what has resulted to major destruction of our atmosphere.
से भी वातावरण की क्षति हुई, उसी से ये वातावरण की क्षति हुई है, उससे भी वातावरण की क्षति हुई.
It is that which led to the destruction of the atmosphere. Rather, that too contributed to the destruction of our damage to our atmosphere. I think here he's talking about atmosphere when he says Vatavaran rather than just environment as a whole.
सबसे ज्यादा क्षति हुई है तो उसी से हुई.
The maximum damage, if it has occurred, it has been thanks to these nuclear testing programs.
तो वो किया विज्ञानियों ने, भोगेंगे 700 करोड़ आदमियों ने.
So that this was conducted by scientists, but it is all 700 crore human beings that will suffer the consequences.
मुट्ठी भर आदमी ने करता है और 700 करोड़ आदमी भोगता है.
A handful of people execute such actions, but 700 crore human beings suffer the consequences.
इस जगह में हम पहुंच गए. तो
This is where we have reached.
नाश के लिए जितने भी हम प्रयत्न किए उससे हुआ क्या है? मनुष्य के सर्वमानव के लिए, माने सामान्य मनुष्य के लिए क्या क्षतिग्रस्त होने के लिए उपाय कैसा बन गया? वर्तमान से विश्वास ही उठ गई.
So all these efforts that we have taken in the direction of destruction, what have we achieved through this for all humankind? For your average human, what have we achieved besides coming up with different ways of damaging and hurting one another?
विखंडन विधि से वर्तमान शून्य हो जाता है. शून्य.
And sorry, there's something more.
क्षतिग्रस्त होने के लिए उपाय कैसा बन गया? वर्तमान से विश्वास ही उठ गई.
Yeah. So what sort of strategies have we come up with to destroy that? Our confidence in the present itself has diminished. Like because in the sense that we can't be sure of what will happen next. We know that we have the power to destroy ourselves and this planet. That's all that we have achieved. Because thanks to all this, we've lost the confidence in continuing life the way that it has been going on.
विखंडन विधि से वर्तमान शून्य हो जाता है.
This atomistic or deconstructive approach leads to the diminishing of the present, or basically the nullification of the present.
शून्य प्राय हो जाता है, कम से कम.
Shunya pray means approaching zero, basically. That the present begins to tend towards zero. What that means is that, at least so looking at things with this atomistic deconstructive approach, this destructive approach, doesn't immediately lead to our present being destroyed or being our present disappearing, but at least it starts tending towards that. It starts moving in that direction of destroying our present.
Rishta, does that Hindi word Parichay mean goal by any chance?
No. No, pry usually means prior, towards, something like that. Let me just see. Abhipray means our intent and goal. Let me just check the actual meaning. Right. Saman, equal to. Anurup, which is like according to, resembling, almost, near, like. So close to zero. Or begins to resemble zero.
Okay.
वर्तमान का कोई माने एक तादाते नहीं मिलता है, जबकि
that is to say that you don't get any measure of the present through this. Not sure exactly what all can be implied by when he says that, but maybe if we hear further.
इसके उल्टा है वास्तविकता, तादाते नहीं मिलता है, जबकि इसके उल्टा है वास्तविकता, नित्य वर्तमान में है.
Whereas the reality is the exact opposite of that. Reality is constantly in the eternal present. So, okay, I guess what I understand from this is that when you start trying to understand existence through this atomistic deconstructive lens, you come down to the level of atoms and subatomic particles and all those in the quantum realm. And when you try to understand reality from that perspective, in a deconstructive way, then you can't get any sort of handle on what the present is. Because, you know, if we're familiar with quantum physics, there is no concrete, stable sense of the present in that. You know, you can never say whether something is even if it is a particle or not. Forget about its position. And then if you develop such a lens of looking at existence, you have no real way of understanding what the present really is, and it becomes quite um, vague. And then you have to come up with notions of multiple realities and multiple truths, and all truths existing simultaneously at the same time. And that's the kind of uh, consequence of trying to understand reality in this deconstructive way. Whereas the truth is the exact opposite of that, which is that reality is ever present. There is an eternal state of present in which everything can be understood. I mean, that ever present gets elaborated in more detail, hopefully over here.
वर्तमान के बिना और कुछ हुआ ही नहीं आज तक, ना होने वाला है.
So there has been nothing besides the present till now, and nor will there ever be anything other than the present.
वर्तमान में ही सारे का सारा वैभव, अस्तित्व का वैभव नित्य वर्तमान है, नित्य विद्यमान है.
It is only in the present that all the grandeur of existence is eternally present, that it is eternally situated.
और उसके उल्टा हम गणित में ये मानते हैं वर्तमान कुछ है ही नहीं है.
Whereas in contrast to that, what we believe is that there is no present.
कितने अच्छे लग रहा है ये आप सोच लो.
What excellent foolishness this is, you can think of for yourself.
तो इस ढंग से हम झूठ की पुलंदा इतना बना चुके हैं, शायद ही अपन इससे उभर पाएंगे, ऐसे मुझको लगता है. उभरना होगा तो एक ही विधा है, मनुष्य अपने पर विश्वास करना पड़ेगा.
So in this way we have created such a massive mountain of lies that it is quite difficult for us to escape from it. We have created this huge mound of lies. If we have to escape from this, the only way for that is that humans will have to have confidence in themselves.
उभरना होगा तो एक ही विधा है, मनुष्य अपने पर विश्वास करना पड़ेगा. यदि विश्वास आटम बम पर विश्वास करेगा, तलवार पर विश्वास करेगा, डंडा पर विश्वास करेगा, पत्थर पर विश्वास करेगा, वो तब तक तो आदमी पर तो विश्वास करेगा नहीं.
So the only way to emerge from this mound of lies, to escape it, is that humans will have to have confidence in themselves. Until they will have to trust themselves. Until they trust the atomic bombs, until they trust swords or sticks or other weapons, this will not happen. They will have to trust other human beings, oneself and other human beings. Humans will have to trust humans.
ये तो बात सच्चाई है. स्वयं पर विश्वास करने के लिए स्वयं का अध्ययन आवश्यक है.
This is the fact of reality. And in order to have confidence or trust in oneself, one has to understand and study oneself.
स्वयं का अध्ययन में यही आती है, न्याय धर्म सत्य को हम सटीक समझना. न्याय कहाँ से आती है?
And in the study of oneself, what emerges is this exact understanding of justice, order, and truth. So where does justice come from?
संबंधों के आधार पर.
On the basis of relationships.
धर्म कहाँ से आता है? व्यवस्था के आधार पर. और सत्य कहाँ से आता है? अस्तित्व के आधार पर.
Where does dharma or order come from? It comes on the basis of systems. Where does truth come from? It comes from, what did he say exactly? Existence.
व्यवस्था के आधार पर. और सत्य कहाँ से आता है? अस्तित्व के आधार पर.
So where does truth come from? Comes on the basis of existence.
इतना सहज है।
This is so natural.
अस्तित्व तो नित्य वर्तमान है, प्रभावशाली है, सह अस्तित्व नित्य प्रभावी है। व्यवस्था जो मनुष्य को,
So how natural is that? Existence is eternally present. It is eternally effective. Coexistence is eternally effective. Then orderliness, order or dharma,
को जोड़ करके बारे सारे नित्य प्रभावी है। व्यवस्था जो मनुष्य को जोड़ करके बारे सारे संसार की तीनों अवस्था के संपूर्ण वैभव व्यवस्था में ही है।
So as for order, besides human beings, all the other entities of nature, all the three other orders, which is the material order, biological order, and animal order, all of existence besides human beings are in orderliness or are in the form of systems.
मनुष्य को भी व्यवस्था में होने की शायद तरस किसी न किसी अंश में हर व्यक्ति में निहित ही है।
And as for humans, even this desperation for orderliness and system is present in all humans in some at some level or the other.
इसको ऐसा पूछ करके देखा गया है, क्या आप व्यवस्था में जीना चाहते हैं, अव्यवस्था में जीना चाहते हैं? उसका उत्तर यही निकलता है कि व्यवस्था में जीना चाहते हैं।
And this I have seen by asking people whether they would like to live in orderliness or in disorder. And the answer always comes as that everyone wants to live in order.
तो दूसरा ऐसा भी पूछ के देखा गया है लोगों में, अधिक मैंने 200-400 लोगों में ऐसा पूछा गया है कि क्या आप शासन में जीना चाहते हैं, क्या व्यवस्था में जीना चाहते हैं? उसका उत्तर यही निकलती है, व्यवस्था में जीना है।
And this question has actually also been asked among people, among 200 to 400 people, of whether you want to live under some rule or whether you want to live in order. And the answer to that has also always been that we want to live in order. This is a very interesting point because we often confuse living in order with living under some rule, which is an imposed sense of order, where, whether it's the rule of some monarch, some dictator, or a democratic government, it is a rule or set of rules that are coming from the outside, which is a distinction from actual order. There is order and then there is imposed rule. So he said, I have asked this question I have done the survey amidst 200 to 400 people, where we asked everyone, do you want to live under some rule or do you want to live in order? And everyone replied that what they wish for is order.
ऐसा बोलते हैं, पूछने मात्र से उत्तर ऐसा निकलता है।
So this is what they say. In fact, the answer that emerges just on questioning is this.
अब व्यवस्था का बोध हमारे पाठ्य पुस्तिकाओं में, प्रचलित पाठ माने शिक्षा में कोई व्यवस्था का बोध होता नहीं।
Now there is no understanding of order or orderliness in our prevalent textbooks, in our curriculum or educational system. There is no understanding of true order.
व्यवस्था का बोध होने के बाद व्यवस्था में हम जीने के उपरांत हम मानव धर्म को निभाने में योग्य हुआ। मानव धर्म का
But it was on comprehending order and after comprehending order that I became capable of living in orderliness among human beings.
का बोध होने के बाद व्यवस्था में हम जीने के उपरांत हम मानव धर्म को निभाने में योग्य हुआ।
So it was through understanding or comprehending order after that I was able to live in orderliness, and only upon that did I become capable of living out human orderliness, human order, human dharma, manav dharma.
मानव धर्म का मतलब और कुछ होता नहीं है, केवल व्यवस्था में जीना ही मानव धर्म है.
There is no other meaning behind manav, human order, that is manav dharma, other than living in orderliness. So here there's been a lot of discourse on what really our dharma is, what the dharma is often called, of human beings is. And here he's defined dharma itself as order, and he's saying the order for humans is to live in orderliness, nothing but that.
और कुछ धर्म नहीं होता. सभी अस्तित्व में हर वस्तु व्यवस्था में ही जीना, व्यवस्था में भागीदारी करना ही धर्म के रूप में दिखता ही.
And there is no other dharma in existence. This is true for all entities, to live in order and to participate in orderliness. That itself is dharma in all of existence. That itself is order in all of existence.
तो पदार्थ संसार अपने अस्तित्व धर्म के रूप में, अविनाशीता के रूप में संपूर्ण पदार्थ अपने को बनाए रखे हैं.
So the material world maintains itself in its existence and in its indestructibility. So the material world is orderly in the form of its existence and that is its indestructibility.
इसीलिए पदार्थ अवस्था अस्तित्व धर्म के रूप में हमको दिखाई पड़ती है.
That is why we can see and we can understand the material order as having the astitva dharma. Astitva dharma is that their order is existence. We call it existence dharma, existence order. So material order is, you can also call it the existence order. Why? Because its principle of participating in orderliness is through its existence and through its indestructibility.
वही प्राणावस्था अस्तित्व सहित पुष्टि धर्म के रूप में माने वैभवित है.
In the same way, the biological order is manifest as existence and nourishment orderliness. So the dharma of the biological order is both to exist and to nourish.
तो वही जीव संसार अस्तित्व पुष्टि आशा धर्म के रूप में नित्य विद्यमान है.
In the same way, the animal order is eternally evident in the form of existence, nourishment, and hope orderliness. That means their principle of participating in the existential order is on the basis of their existence, the nourishment that is ongoing in their cellular level, and hope, which happens at the level of the whole organism.
और वही मानव जो है निरंतर अस्तित्व पुष्टि आशा सहित सुख धर्मी होना देखा गया है.
And in the same way, we have always seen humans or the human order to be having besides existence, nourishment, and hope, that humans are seen to also be having this orderliness of happiness. So in humans, orderliness is not only through existence, nourishment, and hope, it is also through happiness. So that is why you say it, I guess.
सुख धर्मी होना ही उसका सुखी मानव का धर्म है.
So in this way, being happiness orderly itself, you could say, is the orderliness of humans. So basically he's saying that happiness is the principle for orderliness in humans, or happiness is orderliness in humans. Orderliness itself is happiness.
सुख कैसा आता है? समाधान के बराबर में होता है.
And where does happiness come from? Happiness is equal to resolution.
समाधान व्यवस्था में जीने से होता है.
And resolution is from living in orderliness.
व्यवस्था में जीना मानव का समझदारी पर निर्भर किया है.
And living in orderliness has always depended on humans' understanding.
इतनी ही बात है.
This is all there is to it. So, if we understand existence and ourselves and living in existence, then we will be able to live in an orderly manner. When we are able to live in an orderly manner, that is itself our resolution. Resolution is a state of eternal comprehensive solution. So we have a state of comprehensive solution. That is why we're able to live in an orderly way, right? We know what to do, when to do, how to do it, everything to maintain harmony. When we have this resolution, the state of resolution and evidence of that resolution, that is happiness. And happiness is the dharma of human beings. That is what our defining, ordering principle is. That is why we are here. That is what we are here for.
समझदारी कुल मिलाकर के अस्तित्व, जीवन और मानवता पूर्ण आचरण पर निर्भर किया है.
And understanding, all in all, has depended upon understanding existence, understanding the Jeevan, and understanding humane conduct.
इतना कुल मिलाकर के मानव के सम्मुख वह समीचीन है. इसको जैसा उपयोग करना हो, उपयोग करने में हर व्यक्ति अपने में स्वतंत्र है, क्योंकि हर व्यक्ति कल्पनाशील कर्म स्वतंत्र है. इसको हम लोगों ने देखा है.
So this is altogether what is present amidst all humans. Now you can utilize this information as you see fit, because each human being is independent to do what they wish, because each human being is endowed with imagination and free will. So he's saying, see, this is all the information I can give you on the nature of humans. Now you can do with this information what you see fit. Because, each of us are independent and free agents.
तो ये यहाँ तक कि जो व्यवस्था में जीना ही कुल मिलाकर के जागृत बुद्धि का मतलब है. व्यवस्था.
So altogether it is still here, till this point of living in orderliness, that is implied by an awakened intellect, the Jagrit Buddhi. Awakening of our intellect is nothing but our ability to live in orderliness.
समझ में आने की बात, व्यवस्था का बोध होने की बात, व्यवस्था में निष्ठा और संकल्प होना स्वाभाविक है.
So upon understanding, upon comprehending order, it is natural to feel committed and dedicated towards living in order.
व्यवस्था का बोध होने की बात, व्यवस्था में निष्ठा और संकल्प होना स्वाभाविक है. निष्ठा संकल्प होने के उपरांत आदमी, मानव जाति, मानव, हर मानव अथवा एक मानव, जैसा मैं पहले एक मानव, हम अब व्यवस्था में जीना सीखा. ये इसी प्रकार से हर व्यक्ति के पास वो स्वतंत्रता है, जो चाहता है तो व्यवस्था में जी पाता.
So upon this commitment towards and resolve for living in orderliness or living in order, it is natural for any human being, which is to say any one individual or for all human beings, it is natural. For instance, I was one human being alone initially, but it is possible for all human beings upon this commitment and resolve to learn to live in orderliness. So once we have this resolve and commitment towards living in orderliness, then we will learn to live in orderliness. And when we learn to live in orderliness, then it becomes possible for us to develop the ability to live in orderliness.
हर व्यक्ति के पास वो स्वतंत्रता है, जो चाहता है तो व्यवस्था में जी पाता.
So in this way, each individual has this freedom that if they wish, they can live in order.
इस प्रकार से जीकर हम अच्छी एक परिस्थिति को निर्मित कर सकते हैं। आगे पीढ़ी को ठीक करने के लिए शिक्षा का मानवीकरण विधि को अपनाना होगा, फलस्वरूप सद्बुद्धि उदय हो सके। एक परिस्थिति को जी पाता। इस प्रकार से जीकर हम अच्छी एक परिस्थिति को निर्मित कर सकते हैं।
In this way, we can, by living in this way, we can develop a very welcome situation. We can develop very welcome circumstances.
आगे पीढ़ी को ठीक करने के लिए शिक्षा का मानवीकरण विधि को अपनाना होगा।
And in order to fix or address the future generations, we will have to work on the humanization of education. We'll have to adopt humanized education.
फलस्वरूप सद्बुद्धि उदय हो सके।
And consequently, it will be possible for wisdom to emerge in the entirety of the generation.
ये नाश और छिनाल बुद्धि समाप्त हो सके, ये बात को तैयार करना पड़ेगा।
This destructive and selfish, chinal is to snatch. This destructive and competitive or snatching mentality can be addressed, has to be addressed and be rid of in this way.
नाश और छिनाल बुद्धि समाप्त हो सके, ये बात को तैयार करना पड़ेगा।
So we have to prepare for a situation. We must work towards a situation where we can rid humanity of this sort of destructive and greedy, selfish mentality.
इससे कम में मानव का कोई उपकार का विधि अभी तो बनेगा नहीं। जहां जिस नाश की कगार में, सर्वनाश की कगार में हम पहुंचे हैं, वहां से वापस होने का इसके अलावा दूसरा कोई रास्ता नहीं।
It is not possible for us to do any sort of उपकार के लिए क्या word होता है? I've forgotten. Goodwill or let me just see. Can't think of the actual word for upkar. Beneficence. There is no, we can achieve no sort of beneficence towards humankind in anything less than this, in anything less than humanization of education. Why? Because unless we humanize education and rid ourselves of this competitive, destructive mentality, we cannot protect ourselves from complete destruction, of universal destruction that we are heading towards.
ये बात को आप हमको ध्यान में लाने की आवश्यकता है।
So he's basically saying this has to be what social work is all about. All social work is basically trying to help society, right? Beneficence towards society. He's saying any social work can be no less than this. And this is something that you and I must think about, that we really need to think about.
इसको तो दूसरों को छीना झपटी से जीने वाला छिनाल होता है।
So he who lives through snatching and grabbing from others is one that we name chinal or the snatcher.
और कोई मतलब नहीं होता है।
There is no other meaning behind it. So the mentality we need to rid ourselves of, he said, is the destructive and snatching mentality. And a snatcher is he who appropriates from others, misappropriates from others, who snatches and grabs from others.
जो दूसरे भाषा में शोषण करना छिनाली है।
In other words, exploitation. Exploitation is snatching.
ये ठीक है, ये बात अपने को ठीक से समझने की आवश्यकता है। इसको समझना चाहिए और नहीं समझने से परिस्थिति बाध्य करेगी समझने के लिए।
So is this all right? this is something that we need to understand very well. If we don't understand it, then circumstances will compel us to understand this.
इंतजार करिए, तो ये सब,
And we can keep waiting. So you think basically we really must understand this, because sooner or later, if we don't understand this very fundamental fact for ourselves, then we will be compelled to understand it thanks to the situation. Because it will just keep, if we don't address a problem in its initial stages, then that problem keeps magnifying and becoming larger and larger and larger until the point that we can no longer ignore it. So it's better to address a problem when we can see it in its subtler form, and choose to pay attention to it and understand it and address it right then, rather than wait for it to get so magnified and overpowering that at that moment to try to understand it is going to be a huge difficulty. So we can choose to do it now, or we can choose to wait till we reach that stage.
चीजें हमारे आंखों में सुस्पष्ट है, हमको इसमें कोई शंकाएं नहीं है, हम समझना नहीं चाहेंगे, समझने के लिए बाध्य करेंगे.
This thing is absolutely clear in my eyes. There is no doubt about this. If we choose not to understand, if we don't want to wish to understand right now, then circumstances will compel us to understand.
परिस्थितियां बाध्य करेंगी, ये आएगा ही, दिन आएगा.
The situation will force us. That is bound to happen. That day is bound to come.
इस ढंग से हम धर्म में जीने का मतलब सार्वभौम व्यवस्था में ही जीना है.
In this way, living in order, living in dharma, means to live in the universal orderliness. That is a universal system that is universally embraced by all of humankind.
सब बने और अखंड समाज में ही जीना है. तो अखंड समाज में जीने का मुद्दा एक अच्छी मुद्दा है.
That means to live in an undivided society. Now, this issue of living in an undivided society, that is an important topic. It's a good topic.
इस पर भी हम अच्छी तरह से सोचने की आवश्यकता है.
It is important for us to think about this also very well.
इस मुद्दे पर मैंने जो देखा है, ये इस विधि से मानव का अखंडता को देखा है. मानव जाति.
So on this issue, what I have seen is that, so this is how I have understood the undividedness of human being, that
एक मानव धर्म एक, मानव जाति एक है, कर्म अनेक है.
that humankind or human race is one, and human dharma or human order is one. Humankind or human race is one, but human actions are multiple, are varied.
अनेक प्रकार के कर्म आदमी कर सकता है, काय के लिए? सुखी होने के लिए.
Humans can execute many kinds of actions. Why do they do it? To be happy.
अनेक कर्म करो, कोई आपत्ति नहीं, सुखी होने की विधि से करो.
Do many different varied types of actions. There's no problem with that. But do it in the way that actually leads to happiness. Do it in the way towards happiness.
शुभ है.
That leads to welfare.
यदि सुखी होने की विधि से नहीं करेंगे तो धरती ये नहीं है, मानव के साथ, जीवों के साथ, उसके साथ, इसके साथ अपराध करने की कर्म करना.
If we don't do our actions in the way that leads towards happiness, then whether it is with this planet, with other animals, with other humans, or with ourselves, we will only end up committing crimes.
तब तो उसका परिणाम होगा ही, वो आएगा.
So that will have its consequences. That is bound to face us.
परिणाम आएगा ही, उसको कहाँ कौन रोकेगा?
So that will bound to have its consequences. Who will stop the results from emerging?
ठीक है, ये हमने देखा है। इस विधि से यदि आप देख पाते हैं, आपको भी ऐसे ही लगेगा कि भाई ये मनुष्य जो है ना, जो जब तक मानव को एक जात के रूप में पहचानेगा नहीं है, तब तक मानव के साथ शुभ कार्य किया भी कैसे जाए?
So this is how I have seen it. And if you see things in the same way, you will also feel that until humans don't understand humankind as the same race, how will they possibly even do good, do well towards one another?
अवश्य है अनेक काम करना, कपड़ा चाहे कपड़ा का भी काम करेगा, ईटा चाहे ईटा का भी करेगा, मट्टी चाहे मट्टी का भी काम करेगा, फसल चाहे फसल का काम करेगा, जो भी विविध कार्य है वो करेगा ही।
Now it is natural that they will do multiple kinds of work. You require clothes, he will do, he will work for clothes. You require bricks, so he will work for bricks. You require crops, so he will work for crops. So naturally, we will be doing all sorts of work, all sorts of actions.
ये कार्य करके कोई आदमी चुप हो नहीं सकता।
No human can go quiet by everyone doing just the same kind of action.
तो विविध कार्य करेगा। विविध कार्य का कर्म का मतलब है उत्पादन कर्म ही है। और
so there will be multiple types of, there will be varied work, there will be varied actions, and varied actions, varied work means varied types of production.
कोई कर्म होता नहीं, उत्पादन कर्म ही है। कार्य करेगा। विविध कार्य का कर्म का मतलब है उत्पादन कर्म ही है, और कोई कर्म होता नहीं। ये उत्पादन कर्म विविध होगा ही।
So diverse or varied actions implies diverse productions, because production is an action. There is no other sort of action, and there will necessarily be a variety of productions.
ये उत्पादन कर्म विविध होगा ही।
So this production activity is bound to be diverse.
हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते।
We can't do anything
अब रह
about it.
गया, अभी इसके पहले और भी कुछ बातों को हम कर्म कहते रहे।
Now that leaves us with all the other things that we have been calling actions up till now.
वो उसके बारे में भी पहले ही हम उसका स्पष्टीकरण कह चुके हैं। तो वैदिक विचार के अनुसार कर्म उसको मानते हैं स्वर्ग में, स्वर्ग जिससे मिलता है।
Now that is something I have clarified once before as well. I mentioned that in Vedic thought, action is considered to be that which leads us to heaven.
तो वैदिक विचार के अनुसार कर्म उसको मानते हैं स्वर्ग में, स्वर्ग जिससे मिलता है। वो स्वर्ग जिससे मिलता है उसका प्रमाण तो किसी के पास नहीं रहता है, किंतु कहते हैं इससे स्वर्ग मिलता है।
Now whatever it is that is said to lead to heaven is not something that anyone has any evidence of, but still they say that this or that leads to heaven.
उस पर जो आस्था करते हैं ऐसा कर्म करते भी हैं, करते आए भी हैं, आज भी कर रहे हैं।
And those who have faith in this, they do such actions, they have been doing such actions, and even today they conduct such actions.
ठीक हो गई। तो मेरे अनुसार कर्म का जो परिभाषा बनता है, किसी न किसी उत्पादन में अपना तन मन धन को माने नियोजित करते हैं।
Okay, but according to me, the definition that I can come up with for action is the mind, body, and resources that we dedicate towards any sort of production.
यही कर्म है.
That is what is action.
इस कर्म विधि से हम अपने आवश्यकता से, अपने परिवार की आवश्यकता से अधिक उत्पादन कर सकते हैं, समृद्धि का अनुभव कर सकते हैं.
And through this action, and this way of conducting action, we can fulfill the needs of our family, and we can produce more than the needs of our family, and thus experience prosperity.
ये स्थिति बनता है, मैं उसका स्वरूप, मैं स्वयं इसका प्रमाण हूं.
So this is the state that emerges, and I myself am evidence of that. I just like to put a note here that here he is saying karma or action for what he is describing over here, which is production. But later on, he has redefined, I mean, he's used a different word for it for the rest of his literature. He replaces action with work. So he's saying all work is actually production work, is what he uses for the rest of the literature. And karma or action he uses for another concept that gets discussed elsewhere. So if we were to change the vocabulary over here, it would become that human order is one, but human work is varied. There are multiple types of work that we can do. And by work, he means production work only. Production is the only sort of work. So there's bound to be varied, diverse kinds of production activity that humans engage in. So it's work he is talking about, not just action. But he is trying to contrast it with the kind of meanings that have been held by the word action in Vedic thought, which is only those sorts of actions or that sort of work that takes you closer to heaven.
मैं अपने में अपने जरूरत से अधिक पैदा कर लेते हैं, यद्यपि मैं अभी 78 वर्ष के आयु में हूँ, और इसके बावजूद मैं जितना परिश्रम करता हूँ, मैं तो ये नहीं कहता हूँ, तो हमारे पूरे परिवार से अधिक मैं अकेले उत्पादन करता हूँ. मेरे
So this whole thing of production activity allows you to produce more than the needs of my family. That itself leads to this experience of prosperity. I myself am an evidence of that. So I myself produce even today, produce more than the needs of our family even today, even though I am 78 years old. And what did he say?
और इसके बावजूद मैं जितना 78 वर्ष के आयु में हूँ, और इसके बावजूद मैं जितना परिश्रम करता हूँ, मैं तो ये नहीं कहता हूँ, तो हमारे पूरे परिवार से अधिक मैं अकेले उत्पादन करता हूँ. मेरे आवश्यकता से तो अधिक उत्पादन हम कर ही देता हूँ.
So all the effort or that I put in, all the hard work that I put in, I mean, it's not like I'm saying that I do the most hard work in my family, but I know that with all the hard work that I put in, I can definitely at least produce more than my own requirements. So he's saying obviously his own family also contributes in their production work, and then they are able to produce more than their requirements. But he's saying I alone also, I'm even at this age of 78, I'm able to, with my own hard work, produce more than my own requirements. So I'm able to cater to the needs of my family members. And similarly, they do the same.
ये बात सच्चाई है.
This is the truth. This is the reality.
आज की स्थिति में, कल के इसके पहले की स्थिति में इससे तो मैं मजबूत रहा ही हूँ.
And that is the state today. Earlier than this, yesterday, before this, I have been even stronger.
इससे ज्यादा करते ही रहे. इसके पहले की स्थिति में इससे तो मैं मजबूत रहा ही हूँ. इससे ज्यादा करते ही रहे. तो शरीर जो मेरा मजबूती का मतलब शरीर की मजबूती से मतलब है.
So naturally, before this, I have also obviously been even stronger and have been doing much more than I do today. And by strength here, I mean the strength of the body.
जीवन की मजबूती पहले से ज्यादा है, शरीर की मजबूती कम हो गई।
The strength of my Jeevan is more than it was before, but the strength of the body has reduced.
इतनी बात हुई है।
That is all that has happened.
तो इस गणित के
Okay. I think we should pause here because it's past 4. But if there are any thoughts or questions, we can still do that.
Okay, I had a question, but it got answered. My
Okay.
question was, why is he saying karam, no, is work in production? But then you clarified that somewhere else he's changed the language. So
Yeah.
then it got solved. Because karam, according to, we do other karam other than production wise, no?
Yeah.
So then you said it's changed, so it's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just as a little note, otherwise, when he defines karma in the literature, he says there are 9 types of karma, 9 types of
Karam.
action. So that which we
Okay.
do with our bodies, that which we speak, and that which we think, that is one axis of actions, and then that which we do ourselves, that which we have others do, and that which we provide our approval or consent towards. That is the other axis, and then you can make all the combinations. It leads to 9 types of actions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dishra. This was interesting. Yeah, a different kind of experience, but yeah, I think some of the topics or some of the things which they give a different perspective. So yeah, so I think it's been useful.
Yeah, it's interesting. How Baba puts it is very different from how other facilitators tend to put it now. It's more of a modular way of explaining the content. But right now, the way he puts it is a lot more behavioral. Also,
Oh, yeah.
Is there a chart this anywhere with these the 2 axes and the combination of these things? There's something.
yeah, it must be in
And,
one of the presentation PDFs that we've shared. I'll just send it to you again, actually. So
Okay, thanks.
it's a
Yeah.
proper chart. But yeah,
I just also had one more question.
yeah.
Like, just trying to figure out. So basically, what he's saying is like, is he saying? I'm not sure. I haven't understood that. Like, quantum physics comes from like breaking things down into its separate parts, which is why it gives kind of shaky. Like there's no almost like there's no reality, there's no truth, or there's unlimited kind of combinations and permutations that can exist simultaneously, and there's all sorts of kind of extractions from that quantum physics,
Instability.
uncertainty, instability, right? And then what he's saying is like, because he sees the definiteness of, because he sees the whole picture, and that coexistence is eternal, internally present, and so that gives us, even in human behavior, if you correlate those, it gives you a kind of like there's always a right way to be, or what is justice, or what these definitions are. They always stay, and they're always going to be the same, and they're going to be the same. So it gives you a kind of sense of coherence and reliability, and also something to kind of interact through. Because if I'm unstable and you're unstable and you don't know where you are and I don't know where I am, then how do we interact? Whereas this is a different way of looking at things, which actually kind of leads to stability and leads to coherence in some ways more easily. So is that what he's saying, or is it something different?
Yeah, that's exactly it, actually. What he's saying is that, see, there's this atomistic view, and then there is this view of the whole, which is the holistic view. So the atomistic approach to understanding says that if we want to understand something, we should understand the things that it is made up of. Whereas the holistic view says that the parts can be understood in context of the whole. So science tends to follow the atomistic approach, which has been recognized even among, the people within academia. It has been recognized that this is an approach that we have adopted. And what he's saying is that sort of approach only leads to this uncertainty and instability, because you don't understand why the particles are behaving the way they do unless you understand the overall overarching purpose of things. Whereas if you understand the whole, then you can understand the behavior and the particular behavior of the part in the context of this whole, Whereas if you were to remove this part from this whole and put it in another sort of whole, then it will start behaving slightly differently, which would be in alignment with that other whole where it is participating. So a
Right.
holistic perspective versus an atomistic perspective is what he's distinguishing between. And yes, exactly. The holistic perspective gives us some sort of certainty and stability because it tells us the purpose. It actually, a holistic perspective is all about recognizing the purpose of the whole, and that allows us to see the functioning and the structure of the parts as well. Whereas the atomistic perspective is trying to use the structure and the functioning of the parts to understand. Well, they don't even believe that there is a purpose actually. So they just, it's a sort of self-contradictory approach which believes there is no purpose and yet is trying to understand. So what can you understand when there is no purpose? When things are random, there is nothing to really understand. But that is the logical culmination of taking such an approach.
Right.
And yeah, in
It's very
human,
interesting.
yeah, in exactly like you're saying, in human situations also, if you try to understand what the human being is by looking at the individual human and what is happening within me, why, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm thinking this, I'm trying to think of that. You can't come out with any general sort of principles of understanding on what I am by observing just my individual being. You have to see humankind. You have to understand humankind as a whole in order to be able to understand why are these thoughts or feelings emerging in this particular part of humankind, this particular individual, that is me, as part of humankind, which is, you have to understand justice, you have to understand order, and you have to understand truth. Then you can understand the particular iterations of the individual. So the general allows us to understand the particular, rather than the particular allowing us to understand the general.
Yeah, I find that super interesting and very heartening also.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trisha.
Okay. Thanks. Just also to contextualize as a reminder that he was actually going from justice to order to truth to explain these three concepts. And this particular entire video was about order. The previous one was about justice, which is relationships. And order is about networks of relationships and systems that we come, which is basically a network of just relationships is order. So that's what he's been describing in this entire session. And just to contextualize why there's so much talk of dharma and orderliness here. So if there's nothing else, then we can end for today.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Rishta.